What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. It is a great day today because it is TNF, the Niners, and the Giants. Plus, we will be also talking about a full slate of Sunday games in the NFL. Your favorite money line, against the spread, props, anything that you can think of, we will get to. But let's welcome in our guest, Mr. New York, Alex Day of Overtime. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. There's no one that I want to talk New York sports with more than you.
Great to see you, Katie. I had a feeling that when the schedule came out, if there's a time to be back on the show, it would be this week. I've been nervous about this game for a while, but the only thing that's made me feel better is you calling me Mr. New York, because all I wanted in life was to be called Mr. New York. So thank you for that.
You are Mr. New York, and more specifically, Mr. New York sports. If there is anything Yankees, Rangers, Giants, like, you are the person to go to. But speaking of the Giants, let's just back it up a little bit before we talk about tonight's game. What is going on? Because I got to tell you, I took the Giants to cover against the Cowboys. I thought possibly it could be an upset. Now, that game might be a little bit of an outlier because everything that could go wrong went wrong. Then all of a sudden you're down, double digits to the Cardinals. We're supposed to be the worst team in the NFL. You have an incredible comeback win. What do you think of the season so far?
It's been the most dramatic two games, but in the worst way possible.
Yes.
I had the Giants money line week one. Week two, I had the Giants covering. I did live bet the Giants, so I kind of saved face on that. It's been a really weird start to the year. Obviously, I think the Giants kind of outperformed last year. But with that being said, I think they've had some really good additions this offseason, and they would come out of the gate faster than they did. They have not.
They have not. But look, you look at people like Joe Burrow. He started 0-2 last year, made it to the playoffs. It doesn't mean the season is over.
No, but what was really scary is, you look at the schedule. The Giants have a brutal schedule. They have a top 5 hardest schedule in the league. This week 3 game, which we'll get to in a couple minutes, this game is the Giants are a 10.5 point underdog. Yeah. Everyone's kind of chalking it up as an L. The Giants lost to Arizona, and then all of a sudden they go into Monday Night Football week 4, down 0-3. Things would be looking dark. That second half, I don't think it's a stretch to say it saved the season, because if you go down 0-3, you're not making the playoffs. And whatever you do in the offseason, out the window. So crazy second half. I didn't even feel good after that game. Like, I really didn't. The Giants won. They came back from it was their biggest comeback win since 1949. I didn't feel good. The Saquon news, the fact that, outscored 60-0 in the first 6 quarters. The defense doesn't. There's just a lot to not feel good about. Yeah. But a win's a win. So we're gonna smile. Yeah. And we're gonna keep rolling. Survive.
But I think morale, you needed the comeback too. I mean, yes, if you came out and just punched them in the mouth, that would have been favorable to everyone. But the fact that you were able to overcome something and get that win, I just feel like for the locker room's sake, for morale, especially heading into a short week against a very good 49ers team, you're like, okay, we could be down and come back, whereas like with the Cowboys game, it just was a disaster from start to finish. So I feel like at least they're like, all right, we know how to do this. But let's get started with tonight's game. Yep, and we're going to give our 3 best bets. Yeah, look, Niners are laying 10.5 at home. Moneyline -600. By the way, this morning it was like -510. It's gone up to -600. Total 44. Look, I know that you don't think that the Giants are going to win this game, but still 10.5 is kind of a lot to lay. Are you risky enough to take the points?
Katie, I've known you for a couple of years, and you know that I am extremely biased. And I made a lot of money last year. And you know why I made a lot of money last year? Because I love betting on my New York Giants. I do. I'm a sharp bettor, but when it comes to the Giants, I'm a sucker. With that being said, I am not taking the Giants. I of course will not bet on the Niners, because I can't do that to myself. No. But the Giants are in kind of a state of emergency right now. You said moral victory. In a way, it feels a little bit more survive and advance. Vibes are not great right now. My best bet for this game is under 44. I sadly, when I see this game play out in my head, I could very easily see the Niners having a first half like the Cardinals have last
Yeah.
week, and then they just sit on the Giants. They
Yeah.
just squeeze them like a boa constrictor, and the Giants can't do anything. And then all of a sudden the game ends like 31-10.
Yeah.
Like in the second half, nothing happens. That's kind of what I feel like is going to happen. I'm kind of accepting my fate right
Yeah.
now. I
Yeah.
do feel good about 10.5. It's things aren't great right now. It's a
Yeah.
big number. It's a big number, but all of a sudden I could see the Niners going up 2 touchdowns 7 minutes into the game, and all of a sudden you're scrambling to get back to that number.
Yeah. Look, I'm just like you. I'm the biggest 49ers fan. And I can be a little bit biased, but I am afraid of this 10 and a half, like double digit favorites, prime time. Like I worry about the 49ers overlooking the Giants a little bit because they've had such a rough start. So for me, I'm not going to lay the 10 and a half. That's too much for me. And I'm a 49ers fan.
Yep.
What I have been doing the first 2 weeks, because I've been afraid to lay these really large spreads that the Niners have been laying, is I'm taking the San Francisco team total over 27.5. It's cashed for me in 2 straight weeks. So until the books start making this line over 30, I'm going to keep hammering it. Dating back to week 16 of 2022, the 49ers have scored 30 or more points in 5 consecutive regular season games, which is the most consecutive games that the team has scored this much since the 2013 season. So back in the Harbaugh days. So if they hit 30 again tonight, it will be the longest streak in franchise history. I kind of think that they do it. I think that we get to 30 points here. The Giants have, unfortunately for you, given up 68 points in just 2 games. So give me the Niners over the 27.5. I will hope for the cover, but I'm not sold on it as well. Anything else you're looking at in this game?
I mean, I'll say that I'll probably be taking that bet.
Let's go.
When you look at what the biggest issue for the Giants has been, you look at why the Niners are really, the Niners are good for a myriad of reasons.
There's one big reason.
There's one big reason, but the Giants get dominated at the line of scrimmage on offense and defense.
Yeah.
The defense does not have a sack. They're not getting pressure. Kayvon Thibodeau has not made his presence felt. Leonard Williams is not. Dexter Lawrence did in really only the second half of the game. There have been tackling issues. The Giants have had issues at that second level. I see Shanahan really kind of exposing the Giants defense. It's going to be up to the Giants offense to keep them in the game, but I'm very worried about the Giants defense, which is, they have a young secondary, a defensive line that's not getting pressure. It's just, the alarms are going off in my head, nightmare. It's just, it's not good. I really like that team total for the Niners.
Okay, awesome. Well, good. I mean, that's one thing you can bet without betting against your team, because you'd be like, hey, they could still cover, maybe win, but the Niners are going to get to this.
Exactly.
Yeah. Are you looking at any prop bets for this game?
I am. CMC over 78.5 rushing yards. The Giants have had, and this I was talking about the pressure in the pass game.
Yeah. What
James Conner did to my defense last week left me in fetal position, shaking back and forth, Katie. It was hard to watch. The vision of CMC just taking a pitch to the right side and taking it for 15 yards over and over. I'm seeing these things go in my head. It's scary. I think that should be a pretty good number for him. CMC has gone over 110 yards in both games so far.
Yeah.
Was also tempted to look at the CMC over passing because that number was surprisingly low. I believe it was around over 30 yards.
Well, but you know what? I got tricked into that last week. I took him over his receiving yards because he only had 17 receiving yards in the first.
Got over 20.
Right. And he averages over that. But so then I took it against the Rams. I was like, he's definitely getting more receiving yards. And because I thought that maybe, Shanahan, there's so many weapons. I thought he would switch up the game a little bit, right. Maybe obviously Ayuk had such a great breakout game. He ended up kind of injuring his collarbone. And so then I thought, and Debo did. And I know that Debo is like the Rams slayer. And so I knew that he would have a big game, but they still used Christian McCaffrey the same way. And so he didn't go over his receiving yards, but maybe tonight is the game where that happens. But yeah, I love this bet until Christian McCaffrey goes anywhere near this line. Like you got to hammer the over because he's been getting 100
Over
Yes.
over 110 yards in both games, and I think, again, if you're feeling dangerous, I would go over for him in passing yards as well.
Yeah. Well, and maybe you can mix the 2. I don't know what the combo,
Receiving yards, excuse me, in the passing game.
yeah, well, I knew exactly what you meant.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go Nick Bosa to record his first sack of the year. The line is .75, -105. You said it. The Giants O-line has the second highest pressure rate allowed in the NFL this season through 2 games. Neal's had a hard time. He's tied for the third most quarterback pressures allowed since last season at 52. The Cowboys defensive ends got the better of him. Neal was credited with allowing 1 sack, 8 total pressures, and 6 hurries. He had a pass block win rate of just 71%. It was the second worst score of any tackle that played in week 1. And then you got Nick Bosa, the reigning defensive player of the year. He's got the second highest pressure rate at 17.9% since the start of last season. Neal says that he's excited for the challenge of stopping Nick Bosa, but he should be terrified. He should be absolutely terrified. Bosa just finally had a full snap count against the Rams. He's feeling back up to himself. I think that tonight is the night in prime time that he gets his first sack. So at -105, I got to take it.
Can I ask you something, though?
Yeah.
Sometimes things make a little too much sense. Why is this only even money?
Well, because I think
Why
he
is this
hasn't
only even
gotten a
money?
sack yet, and because
Evan Neal's looked like a revolving door so far this year, and he'll be going up against Nick Bosa. Why is this only even money?
okay, I hear you, and it does feel a little bit suspicious, but I think because Nick Bosa did not have a preseason at all, he was on a limited snap count in week 1, he still has not got a sack. I think the books are still like, maybe he still needs some more time to rev up. But yeah, I mean, if he's look, I think at
I'm,
even
I'm,
money, I'm
I'm
taking it.
criticizing your bet because it makes too much sense,
Yeah.
Kate. It makes too much sense. I
Yes.
don't like it. It makes too much sense.
Yes. What's one more bet that you're looking at for this game?
So the last one I'm looking at is Waller anytime touchdown. Now,
I love Waller.
so in my opinion, Waller, that was really the big thing that the Giants have leaned on this offseason.
Yep.
If you were to reclassify the Giants, Darren Waller as a wide receiver, he would probably be a wide receiver 1, and all of a sudden people are looking at that offense differently. He doesn't have a touchdown so far this year, and they're going to need him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They're going to need him if they want to stay in this game. They've been feeding him a little bit, especially more in that second half against Arizona. It's important to feed your stars in the NFL. It's important in any sport for your stars to eat. And I think this is the week where they need to feed him. They don't have Saquon. You look at where the other firepower is. It's really Jones spreading the ball around. And what we saw in the preseason, I think will come back into fruition in week 3 here. The odds are pretty good. The odds are at +310.
Oof.
I was also looking at Jones +240 to score as well.
Run one in.
Run one in. You know, I think those are good Waller odds. They need to feed him. They need to keep him engaged. You know, he's not that kind of diva wide receiver or anything, but they don't really have a choice. They don't have a choice. And I like, 3-1. Give me that any day.
I actually love this, and my bet goes hand in hand with this because I do think that number 8 is going to have to spread the ball around, which is why I like him for an interception at -102. He's had 3 interceptions in 2 games this season. 2 of those came from Dallas, which is comparable defense to San Francisco. He's going to be under immense pressure tonight. The Niners defense hurried both Kenny Pickett and Matt Stafford into 2 interceptions so far this season. There's a good chance that the Niners, like you thought, get out fast to a lead. So the Giants are going to have to play catch up here, which means a lot of Danny Dimes throwing the ball here, especially like you said, with Saquon out. So give me Danny Dimes for an interception. At this point, it's a given.
I will say the 2 of the picks there went right through Saquon's hands and into the DB's hands. Since Daboll has taken over as coach, he has really eliminated.
Yes.
Like not just gotten better, but like eliminated his turnovers. I think the game script could be an issue in that if the Giants go down big, he's got, now we're playing backyard football. Now any quarterback is going to make mistakes. If the Giants stay close, I think will take care of the ball because he really has to take care of the ball. the 2 picks with Saquon had me banging my head against the wall. This isn't the Jones of his first 2-3 years in the
Right.
league when we all remember the fumbles. We all remember the interceptions. I know I do. But really, since Dave's has taken over, the turnovers have been drastically cut down. I don't know. I don't know about this one, Katie. I don't know.
Look, Matthew Stafford hadn't thrown a pick until he saw the 49ers this year. They just have a way of getting pressure and, causing quarterbacks to hurry, and then they make mistakes. And I do think that they'll be playing. Look, yeah, there's a reason why this is only minus 105, like it is close to, or minus 102. Yeah, minus 102. So it is close to even money here, but I just trust the Niners to create that pressure and to confuse and Danny Dimes' record on Thursday Night Football. It's not great. I think he's got 17 interceptions on Thursday nights, or 17 interceptions without Saquon Barkley playing, which, to your point, the two of those interceptions came from Saquon Barkley. But all right, we are going to take a quick break here, and we're going to get into the Sunday slate when we come back on Moxie Bets. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words: Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer: hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, everybody, welcome back to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Here with our guy, Alex Day of Overtime, previewing Week 3 Sunday slate of the NFL season. We don't have time to go through every single game, but we've picked out some of our favorites. Starting with the side here, any money line or against the spread bet that you really like, Alex?
I like Green Bay -2.
Love it. I love Jordan Love, by the way. He's been balling.
He has been balling, and I think him and LaFleur are kind of on the same page here. And I think Packers fans are also on that same page. Yeah. This is going to be their first home game of the year. I think at -2, I'm really not a believer in the Saints. I think that's a huge part of my decision here, where I think the Saints just, when they look good, when they look good, it's fluky. When they look bad, I feel like that's what they are. LaFleur as a favorite, I have it up right here. LaFleur is a favorite, 29-24. He's the 6th most profitable coach against spread over the last 20 years. I like those odds.
Yep.
We have a Saints offense that has looked a little all over the place going into Lambeau.
Derek Carr.
-2 is not a big number for the Packers.
No.
And the Packers really, I think, gave away that game against Atlanta last week.
Yep.
That definitely has a sour taste in their mouth. I think they take care of business in the official turning of the page from Rodgers to Love. First game at Lambeau, that place is going to be rocking. I like Packers -2.
First of all, look, nobody wanted what happened to Rodgers to happen. It's depressing for Jets fans, but even just football fans in general. You never want to see one of the greats go out like that. And, when he has his brand new life and he seems so happy and he's going to Broadway plays. I mean, he was contesting for Mr. New York with you. And then he goes out like that. But how lucky is Jordan Love that his first year as a starter, he doesn't have to be compared to Aaron Rodgers and what Aaron Rodgers is doing in the Jets. That whole conversation is dead. And I feel like it really has allowed him to flourish more and not have the looking over to see what Aaron Rodgers is doing every 5 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. And for as much as Rodgers wanted to complain about the roster, which in some ways I think he's very right, that Green Bay roster is pretty strong. And they're not asking Love to do too much. And the same, I think it's almost in not this, I'm not saying they're nearly as good as the 49ers.
No.
But they're not asking their quarterback to be anything that he's not.
No. No, I agree. I love this pick. And I'm rolling with you on that one with the Packers -2, especially first game at home, Lambeau. I think that Packers fans are so encouraged with how Jordan Love has been playing. He's going to get a extremely warm welcome. And you always, a place like Lambeau, if it's a short spread like that, you want to take him. And I'm not convinced that the Saints are that good either. Derek Carr has been inconsistent, he's kind of been his entire career. And the defense is kind of good, but also until Kamara comes back from his suspension, it's hard for me to think that they have a Olave has been great, but that's neither here nor there. I am going to take Seattle, the Seahawks -6 versus the Panthers. And I'm not overthinking it too much. Seattle's a good team, and Carolina is still figuring it out. Yes, Seattle lost to the Rams, but that's kind of always how it works, right? Pete Carroll can't seem to beat Sean McVay. And the Rams are a lot better than I think everybody thought that they would be this season. The Hawks' comeback win over Detroit is really what has been impressive to me, especially down some of their key offensive players. Geno Smith threw for 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Even if DK Metcalf is not 100%, Kenneth Walker III has been pretty solid for them.
Oh, yeah.
And like Seattle's defense is kind of a problem, right? They're the only team to allow multiple 30-plus point games this year, but they're not up against Matt Stafford and Jared Goff this week. They're up against Bryce Young, who looked better in week 2, but he has the 3rd fewest yards per attempt at just 4.2 by any quarterback in his first 2 career games in NFL history. Like, they're not moving the ball that good. So I think this is an easy dub for Seattle. I'm going to go ahead and lay the 6 points. I like that it's come down from 6.5.
I'm a big believer in the Seahawks defense, even though they have not looked good this year. I think they have a really good secondary. You got guys like Witherspoon back there. Before I saw this line, I thought, what is this line with Seattle and Carolina?
Yeah.
And I thought that they would be giving more than the touchdown. I was a little surprised I was -6. I'm riding with you on this. But it's similar to what we were talking about with the Giants-Niners game, with Bosa getting a sack.
Yeah.
-6.
Well, look, the lines have been sharp this year, and it's been kind of interesting because underdogs have been cashing. Road underdogs have been cashing. Week 1 was all about the under. Week 2 was all about the over. So you got to start to think that the lines are getting sharper. Books are starting to adjust. I think we see a little bit more normalcy going on. I mean, we'll see in week 3, but it looks like we're on the same side of this next pick. And it's not just because both of us don't really like the Cowboys, but 12.5 points or 12 is a lot to lay.
12 is way too many. And look, we all know the Cardinals aren't good. We all know they're trying for the first overall pick, but they're frisky. They're frisky.
Yeah, they're really frisky.
I saw it firsthand. While they might not be that good, I think they are underratedly competent. Is that the most backhanded compliment of all time?
But it's also could be the most accurate thing anyone has said. Like, this team is not good, but their offense is moving better than we thought they could.
Look, the Cowboys should win this game.
Yes.
It shouldn't be
close.
12 points is a lot of points. That's all I'm saying. 12 points is a lot of points.
Well, and if the Cowboys get out to a huge, huge lead, are they going to continually put Dak in a position to maybe get injured? No, I don't think they're going to. So I agree with you on this one. The Cowboys have a plus 60 point differential through 2 weeks, which is just insanity, absolute insanity. But they have benefited from a very high turnover rate of its opponents, 30%.
I was curious how you were going to finish that sentence there, talking about the Cowboys' opponents.
Right. And it's like 30% of drives have got a turnover. And I really think that week 1 game where everything went wrong for the Giants are better than they looked. And I don't think the Cowboys are as good as they looked. That 40, if you just looked at the score 40-0, then you'd be like, oh my God, the Cowboys are incredible. And yes, this defense is amazing. The offense, I mean, they're good, but like, I don't think they're as impressive as this defense. And I also think, there's a little bit of regression that has to set in. The Cowboys can't start that strong, have all of these turnovers, have all of these things, and not have it to be, regress a little bit. And also, you just look at the number here. 10 is a very key number in gambling in terms of the frequency of margin of victory. This point spread just feels a little bit too much for me. I was looking at this graph. I believe it was on, I can't remember where I found it, but there was a graph that last year when you look at teams that were over 12 or over point favorites, they only covered in 2% of games last year. So yes, the Cowboys are going to win this game. I think that their turnovers regress a little bit more to the mean, and I don't think that their offense is going to be out there towards the end of the game. And I could see a little backdoor cover by the Cardinals here, just to cover the 12. I mean, I could see the Cowboys winning by 10, just not 12.
And on the other side of the turnovers, so much has been made about how often Dak turns the ball over. And this year, they're not really having – I mean, he's thrown for around 350 yards combined in both games.
They're running the ball.
They're running the ball. He doesn't have a pick. At some point,
it's coming.
If I know anything about Dak Prescott. At some point, water will find its level, and he will make some stupid throws. And I don't know if it's this week. I don't know if it's next week, but they will come. And you turn the ball over twice, all of a sudden a number like 12 starts to look a lot more daunting.
Put him up against a team where he's going to have to throw the ball, like an offense like the 49ers, a team that can put up points. And then, yes, I agree with you. Those turnovers are going to happen. They also haven't. Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. Dak is who he is. And just like, Josh Allen, although Josh Allen cleaned things up last week. All right, let's look at some totals. We're on the same side again for the Titans and the Browns, this under 39. And, interesting when I was looking at this, Alex, through the first two games, the Browns defense has yet to allow an opposing offense to run a play inside the red zone, which is very impressive. The offense, especially now with Nick Chubb and led by Deshaun Watson, who just is, I'm sorry, I don't think Deshaun Watson is good anymore. I don't think, one, he hasn't played in a very long time. Two, and I've said this, and I get a lot of heat from this all the time, when when the entire world knows your deepest, darkest secret and that you've done something kind of nasty, it's really hard to overcome the entire world hating you. You just can't snap out of that. And I feel like that's been his whole thing. He is 26th in success rate, 27th in sack rate. Tennessee's defense, to me, is a little bit underrated, and they can wreak some havoc on Watson, and I think that they will. They were able to put up the Titans 27 on offense versus LA, but the Chargers can't stop anything. I see this being a little bit closer to that Saints game where they only scored 15 points. I like the Browns defense. I like the Titans defense, and both of these offenses are anemic.
You took a lot of my numbers there.
So sorry.
I'm going to give a classic Alex Day analogy here.
Okay.
I first started enjoying betting. Growing up, I'd play backgammon with my grandmother a lot.
Oh.
And in backgammon, there's a thing called the doubling cube. And at any point during a game, you can double the other person. And what that means is, hey, we're either now playing for twice as much or you forfeit. I don't like forfeiting. So I would always take the double when I shouldn't double. What you'd always tell me is, are you having fun right now? And I would say, I'm not having fun. And she'd say, well, you shouldn't have taken the double. You're not going to want to watch this game. You're not going to want to watch the offenses. Don't root for points because neither team's going to score points.
No.
Just bet on what you know is going to happen. This game is going to be ugly. It's going to be gross. Don't put yourself through it. And when the number is that low for a reason. It's that low for a reason, and they're trying to bait you into taking it. I'm going low. I was looking at all the numbers you were looking at, but when push comes to shove, you're not going to have fun watching that game.
I didn't have fun watching the Steelers and Browns. Well, first of all, there were so many injuries in that game where it wasn't very fun. And Nick Chubb going out was really awful. One, wasn't he? I think he was the favorite for the most rushing yards this season. He's going to be out for a full season. He might not even play again. We don't know what this injury was. I was glad that the broadcast didn't show it, but then of course, you go on social media and you end up seeing it, and it looked really bad. And that offense looked bad before he was hurt, right?
And then the offense looked really bad after he got hurt. Now, I am a fan of Ford. I think Ford, is he looks surprisingly shifty. I think they'll have Hunt back. We'll see how much he's integrated, but of course, he knows the system, and I'm sure he's stayed in shape because it's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But that offense didn't look good before. It's not going to look good after. Don't put yourself through it. If you're not having fun, don't take the over.
That is it. If you're not having fun, don't take the over. That is words. Those are words to live by. Absolutely love it. Okay, so what's another one? I have another one actually where I'm not having fun, so I'm going to take the under, but you've got an over here.
Miami, Denver, over 48.5. Mm-hmm. Now, we know what to expect from Miami. And I think anytime I see Miami play, I think they're good. They're good for 28. They're good for 28.
Best offense in the league.
Best offense in the league. I'm watching what McDaniel's doing right now. I'm wondering, well, I'm not sure who's going to stop this. Maybe this is a week that someone stops it. I don't think it is.
No.
I'm a little worried about Denver's offense because I see it in a similar situation to maybe like Niners and Giants or a Dallas and Arizona where a team gets up early and all of a sudden they've got to play from behind and start airing it out. I still kind of think Wilson has it in him if his back is against the wall and he has to be in a shootout like that.
Yes.
I do. I do. So I think the Dolphins offense being the wagon that they are, and them just hitting the racetrack early, that could kind of force Denver's hand to air it out and force them to get a little uncomfortable.
Yep.
And I think that could be good for them. 48.5 isn't that big of a number. Look, I don't, 31-28.
Uh-huh.
That's good.
I love this because I've got a prop bet coming up later for Russell Wilson. Definitely the same train of thought that you are. And yeah, until somebody can stop this Miami offense, you got to just bet the over on all of their games. And 48.5, frankly, I don't think is necessarily high enough. I thought I was taking the under in this, but turns out I'm actually taking the over because there was a little bit of a line change. This one's ugly. I don't know that I'm going to have fun watching it, but for some reason, I'm going against what we just very clearly set out as rules to live by. Jets, Patriots, over 36.5. And it's just because 36.5 is so low. It's ugly. It's ugly. But 36, wow. Like that is really, really low. And look, the Patriots offense hasn't actually looked that bad. I mean, Mac Jones has had his moments. Kendrick Bourne has been a little bit of a bright spot here. He had 2 touchdowns versus the Eagles. The Jets secondary is legit. They were able to hold Dallas to quite a few field goals last week, but this number still feels a little bit too. If this was 37.5, I would take the under, but this 36 has baited me into taking the over. And I just feel like the Jets defense is getting worn out. They have been on the field, Alex, for 151 plays this season. It's the most in the NFL. The Pats are actually moving the ball pretty quick. They're running a play every 23.7 seconds this year, which is the fastest in the NFL. Look, we know that, Belichick owns the Jets. They're not going to get this win. I'm still not going to bet that, but I can see it going over 36. I do 36.5. So if it stops right at 37, I won't be surprised. It's ugly.
Katie, can I ask you a question, Katie?
Yeah. I don't know that I want to answer it.
Name me 5 explosive players on both offenses combined.
Yeah. Oh, name you 5?
Yeah. I'm
Kendrick Bourne.
Name me 5.
Okay. Kendrick Bourne, Garrett Wilson.
I don't know if I'm giving you Kendrick Bourne, but for the sake of this, because I don't think you can name 3 more, I'll give you Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah, I don't think I can name 3 more. Yeah, but okay, Kendrick Bourne had 2 touchdowns in week 1 versus the Eagles, which is a very good defense. And Garrett Wilson is a stud. And yes, Zach Wilson, not so much. But if both of those guys can get 2 touchdowons, and then maybe some, and then
I just told you what my grandmother told me growing up.
Let's think about, okay, here, these defenses are both good. These defenses are both worthy of a turnover and possibly a pick 6. So maybe it's the defenses that get us over this hump. Maybe that's what it is. You know what?
You got me.
Okay.
You got me.
Okay. Yeah, I had to work this out of my head. But I'm betting on defenses here. I'm betting on turnovers and pick 6s. All right, let's get things propping here. What is your first prop bet for week 3?
I like Justin Herbert over 0.5 interception. Ooh. At plus 120.
Okay, well, he's gonna be slinging it.
He's going to be slinging it. And when we were talking about the over-unders, I was tempted to take that Minnesota Chargers over.
It's going to be a shootout. Yeah.
It's going to be a shootout. That number, I believe it's at 54 now. That number scared me, so I'm staying away from that over. But that game is going to be a shootout. I find that in the second halves of these Charger shootouts, as good as Justin Herbert is, I see him make a lot of mistakes at the end of these games, and I don't think the Minnesota defense is anything that great. I don't really think. I think both of these teams kind of play backyard football. There's going to be points. There's going to be turnovers. There's going to be fireworks. There's going to be explosions. It's going to be a mess. And I think, Kirk Cousins will probably throw a pick, and I think Herbert will probably throw a pick. And at plus 120, I'll take my chances with that.
I love this. And yes, until the Chargers prove that they cannot screw things up and lose in the last few minutes of a game, I'm just not putting any money on the Chargers at all, unless it's an over, unless it's an interception like this. I love that. And yeah, Kirk Cousins for an interception all day long. But there's going to be turnovers in this game. There's going to be high potent offenses. None of these defenses can stop anything. So it's just going to be, this one's going to be a fun one to watch. If you like points, if you like interceptions, tune into that game. But yeah.
And as good. Sorry, we got some craziness going on in the studio next to me right now. I don't know if you can hear that right now. Our music podcast has some guests in the studio, and they're doing a freestyle in the studio. So very different than what we're doing. Look, I think that look, Herbert has thrown double-digit interceptions in every year, and in my mind, I put him in that class of a Mahomes. I put him in that class of the upper echelon. And I know the internet loves to hate on him. I think the hate is not warranted, but he does throw interceptions. And he does have a good amount of Josh Allen in him. And if you're going to drag Josh Allen down with the, yes, he makes a lot of great plays, but he takes chances. Herbert kind of does that too. And I think this game is going to be a fun one. Again, I was tempted to take the over. There'll be some mistakes made.
I agree. Couldn't agree with you more. All right. I'm going to take this. I feel like I'm taking so many ugly bets. I'm taking Russell Wilson over 1.5 passing touchdowns at plus 123. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the things that you said about that game. The Broncos are 100% going to be playing from behind, going up against the NFL's best offense. So, Wilson's going to be airing it out. I'm not saying that Russell Wilson is good. I'm just not willing to say that he is completely washed. It feels like he was almost himself with that 50-yard Hail Mary at the buzzer. It felt very reminiscent of, Wilson of yesteryear, Dange Russ, if you will. Vic Fangio revenge game is a little concerning. What?
Can we retire the dangerous name?
Oh, yeah. Ever since the Subway commercial, when he's like, taste it, I was like, oh, God, I can't with you anymore. But yeah, all right.
No, exactly. That's why I want to retire it.
That was, okay, fine. It's retired. That's retired, but I'm not willing to say.
I love this bet.
Well, and I'm a little worried because it's a Vic Fangio revenge game, right? So I think he's going to be throwing a lot of stuff. I do think that Russell Wilson is going to be under a lot of pressure. I probably like him to throw an interception in this game too. But he has cleared this number back-to-back games. He has 5 passing touchdowns on the season so far. And against some pretty solid defenses up front, Vegas up front it's not terrifying, but they're pretty strong up there. Washington, obviously a very good defensive team. So again, hand in hand with why you liked the over in this game, I think that Russell Wilson will get 2 passing touchdowns.
I'm right there with you. The other prop that I have, and I like how your bets kind of
they
all work together, hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm breaking the rule that I said before. Ooh. And I like Kareem Hunt anytime touchdown at plus 230 because they're not going to have a choice but to give him the ball. Yeah. And a broken clock is right twice a day. They'll have to score something. I think Kareem will have to be that guy. And plus 230, sure, give that to me.
Yeah, and I'm taking another. I don't know what's.
He could very easily get 15 to 20 touches, and they love to give it to him in the red zone.
Completely agree. If anybody's getting in, it's him, I will say. I don't know what's wrong with me and why I just decided to take all of the ugliest things in the world, but give me Justin Fields over 171 passing yards. It's at minus 117. Look, he's not very good, but he has thrown for 213.5 yards per game, 42 more than Sunday's prop total. He's also passed for over his season passing prop average of 180 yards by 33.5 yards per game. And the Chiefs defense I've been actually pretty impressed with, but they rank 19th at their pass defense. They're allowing 223.5 passing yard props per game. Obviously, they're going to be playing from behind when you're playing against Patrick Mahomes. It's not like the Bears are going to have the opportunity to be running the ball a lot. So Justin Fields is going to be throwing it. He's probably going to throw an interception, but give me over 171.5.
I'm going to actually piggyback off that. His over rushing yards is 58.5.
Ooh, yeah.
And that number looks insane. That number looks insane right now because they've only called 2 design runs from him. They're trying to make him something he isn't.
Again, 2 years in a row.
Right. That organization they're in a state of emergency. They're feeling the heat.
Yeah.
And they know that they have to change something up, especially playing the Chiefs. They're going to have to run him. And I think I like that rushing total, and I think I like that passing total because if he starts running, it'll eventually open up some things, and hopefully he'll be able to make some easier throws, easier decisions.
Yeah.
That's his game more. The
Well,
past 2 weeks have not. They have not. It would be crazy to think that they're going to run it back for a third time, and they might just be crazy enough to do that. But I don't think they will. They're going to have to run him a little bit more. I like the rushing. I like the passing. I still don't think they're going to win. I still don't think the Bears are going to cover.
no.
But I kind of like Fields' props because they have to change something up. And, this is a guy that people were really high on like 3 weeks ago.
Me. I thought the Bears were going to be better than they were this season. But you know what you just said actually worries me a little bit. And I agree. It's like history repeating itself. They tried to make Fields a passing quarterback last year. It didn't work. And then they're like, okay, let's just set him free. And then all of a sudden he became explosive. And then they're trying to do it again. I know they got him some weapons. So maybe they give it one more week where they try to have him be a passing quarterback, or they say, no, we don't want to get completely blown out by the Chiefs. Let's try to get some kind of, morale that we can keep things a little close. And they're like, let's set Fields free. But yeah, it could go either way. Huh?
Who do you like in that game, by the way?
The Chiefs?
In the Bears game.
Who do I like in that game?
Like in just the spread, prop aside.
What is the line? I don't even know what the line is. Let me look.
The line is now at, saw it last night. 13.5.
Ooh. So this is interesting because it goes against everything. Yeah.
It opened up at 9.5. It's been moving like crazy.
I would look, as a principal, I'm always going to take a plus 13 dog. And if it loses, it loses. But the Kansas City Chiefs offense has not really been that impressive. We had all those drops in week 1. They kind of figured that out in week 2, but they didn't put up a lot against Jacksonville. That was a lower scoring game. It's gross, but give me the Bears plus 13. It's principal play.
Chicago is 1-9 against the spread in their last 10.
Well, how many times are they 13-point dogs?
Let's see. Let's see.
Who are you taking?
In that one?
Yeah.
For the record, I will be staying away from that game.
Yes, but who
would? I just want to make it clear. If I were to put my money on one, I would say Chicago, because once what we were talking about before, once you get over 10 points, once you get over 12 points, this is the NFL. This is about self-respect.
Yes, exactly. All right, so it's time now for Mox Lock. What is your number one bet that you are absolutely taking to the window this week?
Bite in kneecaps and give me every other Dan Campbell euphemism there is. I like the Lions -3.
Yeah,
I like the Lions -3, and I think that if we'll get to the numbers in a second. Can you picture what that this past week of practice was like for the Lions after they lost to the Seahawks?
Dan Campbell, yeah, a lot of caffeine, a lot of chew.
I've got a couple numbers here for you. Who is the most profitable quarterback over the last 5 years?
Well, it's got to be Jared Goff. Well, I know that Jared Goff week 1 is the most. He was like 6-0 against the spread, but just in general, he's the most. Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
40, 24-1 against the spread.
Jared, who would have thunk Jared Goff of the Rams would be the most profitable quarterback in the NFL?
On top of that, he's 17-8 against the spread at home since 2020.
Yeah.
Look, these Lions have me believing. They have me believing. I really think that this will be a lot higher of a game than that. I really like -3.
Well, and to be fair, the Seattle game was a trap game, right? Because that line opened up at 2.5. It bubbled all the way up to 5.5, settled at 4.5. You just knew that Seattle was a good team and they were going to bounce back. I didn't know that Seattle would win that game. I took them to cover, but the fact that the Lions are due for a big bounce back here. I just think that was a tricky spot for them last week. So I agree with you, and I'm riding with you on that one as well.
And right or wrong, I've been kind of fascinated by these Desmond Ridder stats about how good he is at home.
Yeah.
In college and the NFL. I don't know if there's actually truth behind that or if it's coincidental. But he's on the road. So you know what? I'm gonna follow the trends. I'm gonna follow my gut, and I like the Lions -3.
Well, and the thing is too, is that like the Falcons refuse to throw the ball. Arthur Smith won't throw the ball. They just run, 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 run. Then you've got a really high-powered passing attack with the Lions. They could score on you really, really fast. And so I just don't know that the Falcons are going to be able to keep up the pace with the Lions here. So the fact that the line is only 3 is a little bit suspicious to me. So 100% riding with you on this one all day long.
What's your
My Mox lock of the day, George Kittle. George Kittle over 44 and a half receiving yards tonight. It's at minus 113. So Kittle has not had his breakout yet. He hasn't got hot quite yet. Only 9 targets for 49 yards in 2 games. But I think with Ayuk nursing a little bit of injury, he doesn't have, his collarbone is fine, but he's still probably a little bit sore. It's a short week. And the fact that the Giants have been pretty vulnerable to tight ends so far this season, it's a recipe for Kittle to have his first breakout game of the season. The G-Men allowed Zach Ertz and Trey McBride to have 8 catches on 11 targets combined, 88 yards between the two of them last week. And last season, Kittle averages 51 receiving yards per game in primetime. Kittle in primetime is where things really come alive. I think he's going to get more targets tonight. And I think he's probably good for one breakout, especially since the Giants kind of allowed a lot to tight ends in this last game. And he had 4 straight primetime games to end the season last year with at least 1 touchdown. 3 of those 4, he had 2 touchdowns. So I kind of like him for an anytime at plus 195 as well.
The Giants have had a lot of trouble with tight ends since Tom Coughlin was wearing the headset. Like it's been an issue. The Giants have had trouble with linebackers covering tight ends. They've had trouble with safeties covering tight ends. It's been an issue. I do kind of feel like sometimes the Niners say, you know what? We don't really need you to be that guy. We just need you to block. And I feel like I can never take Kittle props because they sometimes just don't even use him at all.
Yeah,
I'm a big Kittle fan.
Yeah,
please. I've had Kittle on my fantasy team for years. My fantasy team name is Here Kittle Kittle. With that being said, I wish him the worst tonight.
Well, but here's the thing, and I agree with you. And most of the time, it's like, okay, we can use. He's a great blocker, especially except for in the NFC Championship game. But we're not even going to get into that. But they do use him like that. But then every once in a while, I feel like Shanahan throws in the bone because he wants the touchdowns. He wants all of those things. You've got to think, Debo got a bulk of the load against the Rams, and so he may be a little bit tired. Ayuk slightly banged up. Giants a little bit weaker when it comes to tight ends. I feel like this is just a good recipe for Kittle. I don't play Kittle every game, but I usually hit on my props when I bet George Kittle. He's also my favorite player. So we'll see how that goes tonight. But Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. Talk to me about what you got going on over there at Overtime.
We've got a lot going on, a lot of NFL content going on the Overtime season page, on my page, Overtime Day. We're in the full swing of it right now. We've got some studio content, some podcasts, a lot of tailgate man on the street content. Hopefully going up to Buffalo in a couple weeks for the Giants game. I'll be at the Chiefs, the Chiefs Sunday night game in a couple weeks. So we're in the thick of it, Katie. We're in the thick of it.
Oh, I can't wait to see that content. You can follow him at Alex Day or at Overtime Alex or Alex Overtime.
At Overtime Day.
At Overtime Day. All right. Yeah. It's time. The time of day is always good for Alex. All right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. We'll see how the Giants fare tonight.
Oh, I'm nervous. I wish you the best of luck, but I don't think you need it as much as I need it.
True. All right. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social at Moxie Bets, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Katie.